She walks alone not because she's lost, but because the path to greatness is too narrow for the average. Welcome back, Sigma ladies, the silent strategists, the lone wolves, the women who don't bend to fit into boxes. If you're here, you already know that being a Sigma female isn't a trend. It's a mindset. It's choosing the harder path. It's being whole, alone. But today, we're flipping the lens. Because even a Sigma woman, as fierce, brilliant and independent as she is, doesn't exist in a vacuum. She may not need anyone, but she won't settle for just anyone either. This video is not for the soft-spoken suitors or the wannabe alphas. This is about the rare breed of man who can stand beside a Sigma woman without flinching, without controlling, and without shrinking. The kind of man who doesn't need the spotlight because he is the source of light. We're not talking about cliches or checklists. This is about psychological strength, emotional maturity, and spiritual clarity. This is about the only kind of man strong enough to match a Sigma woman and walk beside her without fear. If you're ready to explore the depths behind the dynamic, hit that subscribe button. We're not just building a channel, we're building a movement for Sigma women who refuse to dim their power. And if you want to keep this energy alive and support the channel, you can now buy me a coffee. Links in the description and pinned comment. Let's keep this unapologetic truth flowing. Point 1. Not a knight, but a warrior monk. Sigma women don't want fairy tale rescue stories. They don't need a knight in armor riding in on a horse. What they seek is rarer, a warrior monk. A man who has conquered his own chaos, who walks with inner peace and doesn't project his damage onto the world. This man is built different. He's not flashy, not noisy, he's grounded. While the world chases validation, he chases truth. He's faced his own demons and made peace with them. That's why he doesn't run when the Sigma woman brings fire. He's survived worse in silence. He knows his strength isn't in control, but in containment. He can hold space without trying to fix, change, or dominate. He doesn't see her intensity as a challenge. He sees it as an invitation. Where most men would get uncomfortable with a woman who doesn't seek permission to exist, the warrior monk thrives. He isn't threatened by her freedom. He respects it. He doesn't mistake her independence for arrogance. Instead, he knows that true love can only bloom in freedom. He doesn't lecture. He listens. He doesn't flinch at her silence. He leans into it. That's because he doesn't need words to understand her. His emotional intelligence is quiet but razor sharp. A Sigma female needs a partner who doesn't dissolve in intensity. She needs someone who can stay still when her storms rise, a man who meditates when others panic. That's the warrior monk. That's the man who sees her not as a conquest, but as a companion. Point 2. Unshakable in her storm. A Sigma woman's power is her stillness, her unpredictability, her silence. And that silence, it shakes the average man, makes him insecure, makes him project. But the man who's right for her, he doesn't blink when the storm comes. He's unshakable. He understands that her silence isn't distance, it's depth. He doesn't rush to fill the quiet with noise. He lets her breathe. He gives her space. Not because he's passive, but because he's wise enough to know that silence reveals more than words ever can. When she withdraws, it's not because she's punishing. It's because she's processing. And he knows that. He doesn't take it personally. He trusts her process. That's what makes him strong. He's not here for ego games. He's here for real connection. A man like this doesn't chase validation through constant communication. He doesn't get nervous when the vibe shifts. He leans into it. He doesn't need her to perform emotions to feel secure. Her energy is enough. In fact, when she's in her lowest moments, silent, intense, emotionally loaded, he becomes her calm. He doesn't try to fix her mood. He sits with her in it, present, grounded, unmoving. He knows storms aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to be weathered. And when she emerges from the emotional fog, she doesn't see him as weak. She sees him as the anchor. A Sigma woman doesn't open up easily. But when she finds someone who can sit still in her storm without judgment, she'll let him in. Not because she needs saving, but because he's proven he's strong enough to stay. Point 3. A king without a throne. This man doesn't need a title to feel like royalty. He's not looking for external validation. He walks like a king, even if the world hasn't crowned him. A Sigma female doesn't care about clout or social proof. She cares about self-mastery. And the man who gets her respect is the one who rules himself first. No status, no throne, just discipline, depth, and direction. He doesn't play games. He doesn't brag. His aura says more than any words could. He shows up with presence, not performance. He doesn't posture or peacock. His confidence is silent and lethal. He leads, but never demands. He commands respect without raising his voice. He's the man who holds doors without needing a thank you. He texts back without strategizing. He shows up, not to impress, but to connect. And that's what the Sigma female craves. Someone real, not filtered, not curated. A man who can speak truthfully, vulnerably, with no fear of rejection. This man doesn't chase crowds. He's too busy building his own world. He doesn't just support her, he inspires her. Because he's not distracted, he's disciplined. He's not looking for a queen to crown. He's looking for a partner to build with. And most importantly, he never tries to dim her light, because he's already shining on his own. Point 4. No strings, just sync. Control is a red flag for a Sigma female. She doesn't do cages. She doesn't do leashes. The moment someone tries to contain her, she vanishes. That's why the man who thrives beside her never tries to tame the fire. He sinks with it. This man doesn't operate with expectations. He doesn't hand out invisible contracts. There are no, if you love me, then you'll, conditions. Instead, there's freedom. Radical, raw, honest freedom. And that freedom, it's the ultimate seduction for a Sigma woman. She needs space to evolve, to create, to be silent, to vanish into herself. And this man gives her that without flinching, not because he doesn't care, but because he does, deeply. He knows that when you trust someone fully, you let them fly. And if they choose to return, that's power. That's loyalty born from truth, not fear. This man is tuned in. He syncs with her rhythms. He knows when she needs space and when she needs anchoring. He doesn't try to get in. He waits for her to invite. And when she does, he shows up, fully. There's no pulling, no tug of war, no games. He doesn't panic when she's unavailable for a day. He doesn't spiral when she's less expressive. He knows that authentic connection isn't measured by constant contact. It's felt in energy, and he's attuned to hers. The reason he's strong enough to be with her isn't because he holds on tight. It's because he knows how to let go without losing the bond. This is what makes him stand out. He doesn't chase, he sinks, and she feels safer with him than anyone else who ever tried to win her. Point 5. The mirror that doesn't crack. Being with a Sigma female isn't light work. She reflects hard. She'll expose your insecurities, not through judgment, but simply by being who she is, strong, quiet, deeply intuitive. Most men don't survive that reflection, but the man who does, he doesn't break. He absorbs, learns, grows. This man isn't afraid of what she reveals. In fact, he welcomes it, because he's done the work. He's not scared of facing himself. He doesn't hide behind ego. He's the kind of man who sat with his demons, shook hands with them, and kept moving forward. When she triggers him, which she will, he doesn't shut down. He leans in. He's self-aware enough to know that triggers are teachers, and every time she pushes a button, he sees it as an invitation to level up, not to lash out. And she notices, because Sigma women don't trust easily. But when they see a man willing to confront himself, they open slowly, carefully, and eventually, fully. This man doesn't project. He reflects. He doesn't run from conflict. He engages not to win, but to understand. He's emotionally fluent. He knows how to say, "That hurt," and I want to know why, instead of, you made me feel weak. He doesn't play power games. He's too evolved for that. To love a Sigma woman, you have to be solid within yourself. You have to be whole without needing to dominate. And this man, he's the mirror that doesn't crack because he's already put himself back together. Point 6. Intelligence over performance. A Sigma female can spot surface-level charm from a mile away. She's not interested in theatrics. You can't impress her with cars, brands, or social media clout. She needs depth, substance, unfiltered intelligence, and this man delivers. He doesn't perform, he converses. He doesn't entertain, he challenges her mind, and that, for a Sigma woman, is intoxicating. This is the guy who brings her ideas she hasn't heard before. He doesn't quote cliches. He's read books that aren't trending. He speaks from lived experience, not YouTube summaries, and most importantly, he listens. When she speaks, even if it's only a sentence or two, he catches the layers. He hears the nuance. He respects the quiet brilliance in her thoughts, and he never tries to outshine it. He builds on it, matches it. He's the man who asks questions like, what do you think the silence between words means? What's something you've never said out loud because no one earned it? He's not flirting, he's exploring, and she loves that because it's rare. With him, she never has to shrink her intelligence, never has to play dumb. She can be her most curious, cerebral, philosophical self. And instead of being seen as too much, she's finally met. This man is mentally agile, spiritually aware, emotionally mature. He doesn't show off, he shows up. And for a Sigma woman, that's the most attractive thing a man can do. Point 7. Mystery doesn't intimidate him. The Sigma woman is mystery personified. She doesn't overshare. She doesn't explain her every move. She flows in silence, makes decisions intuitively, and guards her inner world with iron discipline. That kind of mystery unnerves most men. They need clarity, labels, predictability. But not this man. He isn't threatened by her depth. He doesn't demand answers. He doesn't interrogate or assume. He observes. He respects the unknown. Where insecure men try to decode her like a puzzle they're entitled to solve, this man simply leans into the mystery. He doesn't see it as a problem to fix. He sees it as a dimension to explore. Slowly, patiently, without expectation. He's not the kind of guy who panics when he doesn't understand everything about her. He knows that real connection isn't built on full disclosure. It's built on earned access. And he earns that access through consistency, not pressure. This man is the opposite of clingy. He doesn't need to know where she is every minute. He doesn't stalk her social media or fish for reassurance. He lets her be. And that freedom, it's what actually pulls her closer. She may be unreadable, but he reads energy. He doesn't try to crack her like a safe. He treats her like sacred ground, something to be approached with care, not control. And in a world where everyone's rushing to be known, he understands the value of not knowing everything. That's where respect lives. That's where attraction lasts. Mystery doesn't scare him, it fuels him, because the moment he tried to possess her, he'd lose her. But by staying present and patient, he becomes the one man she lets inside her hidden world. Point 8. Loyal but not possessive. There's a fine line between loyalty and possession, and the average man crosses it without realizing. Not this one. This man is the definition of secure. He doesn't need to control to feel connected. His loyalty is fierce, but never suffocating. He's not tracking her every move, not monitoring her vibe, not decoding every silence like it's a betrayal. He's grounded. He trusts her, not because she reports to him, but because their bond is built on mutual respect, not ownership. When she disappears to recharge, he doesn't blow up her phone. He lets her be. And when she returns, she finds him right where she left him, grounded, focused, present. No guilt trips, no drama, just presence. That's the magic. He doesn't fear her independence. He celebrates it. He knows that a woman like her doesn't cheat. She leaves. If she's here, she's chosen it. Every day. And that's more powerful than any promise. He's also loyal to himself. He keeps his own integrity in check. He doesn't just commit to her. He commits to being the kind of man who doesn't need to manipulate to feel secure. That kind of loyalty is rare. It's quiet. It doesn't beg for recognition. It's not plastered on Instagram. It's in the way he never doubts her when she goes silent. In the way he doesn't punish her for being distant. In the way he doesn't take her freedom as a threat. This is the kind of man who understands that true love lives in choice, not control. And that's why she stays. Point 9. Energy healer in disguise. A Sigma woman carries weight. Mental weight. Emotional weight. Sometimes trauma she hasn't even spoken aloud. And she carries it alone, because most people can't hold it without judgment, advice, or fear. But this man, he's different. He doesn't try to fix her. He holds space. When she's quiet, he doesn't panic. When she's fierce, he doesn't flinch. When she breaks down, he doesn't rush to rebuild her. He sits with her in the ruins. He's an energy healer in disguise, not through crystals or mantras, but through presence, through steady breath, through non-reactivity, through listening not just with ears, but with his nervous system. This is the kind of man who understands emotional alchemy. He knows that pain transforms when it's witnessed with compassion, and so he becomes the mirror she never had growing up, the one who doesn't judge, doesn't advise, doesn't redirect, just holds. And when she opens, little by little, he never uses her vulnerability against her. He doesn't flinch at the darkness. He's walked through his own. That's why he can handle hers. He makes her feel safe without effort, and for someone who trusts very few, that kind of safety feels like a miracle. Not because he tries to be a savior, but because he's already saved himself. That's what gives him the emotional bandwidth to hold her. He doesn't heal her. He reminds her she's already healing, just by being accepted, not fixed. Point 10. Survived his own darkness. A Sigma woman will test a man, not on purpose, but by being her full, unfiltered self. That intensity, that silence, that raw independence, it will trigger any man who hasn't faced his own pain. That's why only a man who has survived his own darkness can walk beside her without breaking. This man isn't just strong, he's scarred, and that's a good thing. He's been through hell. He's fallen apart, lost things, lost people, rebuilt, alone, quietly. He's not afraid of the shadows, because he's lived in them. He doesn't preach healing, he's done the work. He's the kind of man who sat in rooms of silence, faced sleepless nights, faced himself, and came out not perfect, but conscious. So when a Sigma woman comes with her silence, her storms, her pain, he doesn't try to escape. He sees her, all of her, and he doesn't judge her for carrying darkness. He honors it. He knows the value of emotional survival. He knows what it means to be broken and put yourself back together with no applause. That's why he's not loud. That's why he doesn't need attention. His power is earned. This is the man who doesn't run from emotional depth. He dives in. He's swum there before. So when she spirals, he stays. When she withdraws, he respects. When she questions her worth, he reminds her, not through words, but by showing up. A man who's never faced his own trauma will collapse under the weight of a Sigma woman's emotional depth. But a man who's walked through fire, he'll recognize her not as too much, but as just enough. Point 11. Ego in check, always. A Sigma woman doesn't have time for ego battles. She's too evolved, too self-aware, and too focused on building a life of purpose. That's why the only man who can truly walk beside her is the one who's already put his ego in check. This man isn't here to win arguments. He's not about proving who's right. He doesn't escalate over tone or timing. He listens, not because he's weak, but because his masculinity isn't fragile. He's done the work to know the difference between pride and self-respect, between dominance and leadership, between insecurity and strength. When conflict arises, and it always does in any real relationship, he doesn't stonewall, gaslight, or dismiss. He engages from a place of curiosity, not combat. He's not triggered by her intensity, her questions, or her independence. He embraces it because he doesn't see her power as competition. He knows that being with a Sigma woman isn't about managing her. It's about respecting her, and you can't do that if your ego's in the driver's seat. This man apologizes without making excuses. He reflects without spiraling into shame. He knows that emotional maturity isn't about being perfect. It's about staying grounded when things get messy. That's what makes him powerful. That's what earns her trust. Because in a world full of loud talkers and soft hearts, he's got a quiet mind and a steady spine. Point 12. Romance without the cliches. The Sigma woman isn't moved by flowers on Valentine's Day or copy-paste love texts. She's immune to formula. What speaks to her heart is intention, and the man who gets her knows that. He doesn't do romance by the book. He does it by the soul. He remembers the little things, how she takes her coffee, the book she mentioned once, the way she goes quiet when she's overstimulated. He doesn't show up with grand gestures. He shows up with emotional presence. His kind of romance is rare. It's the late-night conversations about legacy. It's the way he protects her peace. It's the unspoken bond they carry in a crowded room. He doesn't perform for social media. His love isn't for show. It's in the way he listens when she's quiet. It's in the way he reads her without asking. It's in the way he respects her solitude without needing to fill it. With him, she never feels pressured to be on. She can be real, raw, unfiltered, and he loves her exactly like that. His version of romance is sacred stillness. He doesn't chase dopamine. He creates depth, and in a world that's obsessed with attention, he gives her something far more valuable: understanding. Point 13. He doesn't make her choose between love and freedom. This is the ultimate test, because for a Sigma woman, freedom is oxygen. The moment a relationship starts to feel like a cage, she's already halfway gone. The man who can truly be with her never makes her choose between being deeply loved and fully herself. He doesn't see her independence as a threat. He sees it as part of the love story. He doesn't compete with her solitude. He honors it. He doesn't try to make her smaller just so the relationship can feel safe. He adapts to her vastness. This man knows that real love doesn't erase the individual. It amplifies it. So he brings support, not restriction. Encouragement, not correction. Space, not suffocation. He trusts her choices, her pace, her boundaries. She never has to explain why she needs time alone, why she's not texting back right away, why she wants to spend the weekend in silence. He gets it, because he's not in love with her availability, he's in love with her essence. And when a woman like her feels unconditionally free in love, that's when she gives everything, not because she has to, but because she wants to. That's the kind of love story they create, not one of dependency, but one of mutual liberation. To all my Sigma ladies watching, hear this loud and clear. You're not too much. You're not too intense. You're not too quiet, or too independent, or too deep. You're just too rare for the wrong ones to understand. And the man who gets it? The one who doesn't just survive your storm, but aligns with your silence, honors your solitude, and still shows up with fire in his eyes. That man exists. He's just not common, and neither are you. Don't settle for anyone who makes you shrink. Don't waste your light proving your worth to people who only see you in fragments. And never, ever confuse loneliness with the need to lower your standards. You're not waiting for a savior. You're building your world. And when the right one shows up, he won't ask you to pause your growth. He'll grow with you. If this resonated, if it made you feel seen, supported, or simply understood, I invite you to support the channel on Buy Me a Coffee. The link is in the description and pinned comment. Your support fuels this space, this movement, this energy, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Not for the algorithm, but because this space was made for women like you. Until next time, stay sharp, stay rare, and never dim your fire for a room that can't handle your heat. This is the Sigma Lady, signing off.